Actually, there are two Birlas. One Birla is the one that you can describe in numbers, a person who heads 3.1 lakh crore rupees assets of companies spanning over 34 countries, 36 countries, chairman of companies in the US, in Canada, in Thailand, spanning across chemicals, wood pulp, textiles, telecom. And then there is another Birla, a Birla who is a son and had to take up onerous responsibilities at a very young age, a father of a pop singer and a cricketer. This is the other Birla that we are trying to unplug today. Mr. Kumar Birla, it's a pleasure. Thank you very much for joining us.
One of the people I had first given an interview to was Latha Venkatesh about 23 years ago, 24 years ago, and I said, "Mao, this such a docile, quiet, hardly spoke." Interview didn't last for too long because I was also very quiet then. And now you have this empowering personality on television who really broke the ceiling, at least for our generation, in business news on television. So great to be with you, Latha. Thank you for
very
coming
much, Mr. Birla. That's, I'll try to live up to that image that you have given of me. Well, but let's go back to that 24, 25 years ago. That Kumar Birla who had to come back from your ailing father's bed and take up such a large position. I mean, if it was not 3 lakh crore, it was 30,000 crore, but 30,000 crore was a lot of money in 1995. Let's begin the story over there. Your colleagues, all maybe double your age at that time, and even more than double your age, they said you were extremely perceptive. You knew a lot, and you asked them, even your questions were searching, and the comments were guiding. So you kind of, even at 28, were prepared?
So you're going to give me some names of people who said this?
The only thing journalists don't reveal are their sources.
They missed their chances on bonuses and increments, but I'd love to know their names all the same. I was well qualified. I'd done my CA, I'd done my MBA. More than that, I'd spent a lot of time working with my father. So I don't know if what you said is true. I think they were just being very sort of generous. But it's not like I was completely, a babe in the woods. I understood business. I understood the dynamics of business. I wasn't exposed to all the businesses of the group at that time, but I had a very good sense of what it takes to run a business. That's for sure. My father made sure that I knew that. I think also in light of the fact that he was critically unwell.
Then let that be the next question. What did father teach in terms of business principles?
So lots of stuff. I'd sit on with him for 2 years. I think I sat with him for the entire 2 years, and he made sure I paid attention. And he'd ask me questions when he thought I was dropping off. But I think in his case, it was just vision. He taught me how clairvoyance, vision, can shape the future, hard work. Also consistency. He kept at it and kept at it and kept at it. He never sort of, kind of slacked off even for a day or for a month. I was supposed to go on a work trip, I remember, and I didn't go because I think he said, "You didn't go?" And I said, "Yeah, I was very tired." And I remember him telling me that, I haven't heard of anyone who died because of being tired. And what do I say?
For all the professionalism of up until the early 90s, it was still friends and family. A large part of Indian conglomerates had a large number of friends and family. But you nicely professionalized the entire group. How did you manage that? Because you would have rubbed some family and friends the wrong way.
So I think just at the time that I was taking over in corporate India, I was going through a huge metamorphosis. Tariffs were coming down. This was after Dr. Manmohan Singh's budget, not too after that, not too many years after that. We were still reeling under that impact. So you had a competition at your doorstep, in your backyard. You had a whole new set of investors who would come into India, the FIIs who you know so well, the foreign institutional investors, and their demands from you in terms of what they would want their investments to do, their companies that they invested in to do was very different. So you required a very different set of skills to succeed going forward. And the skill sets that you had required to succeed that far weren't really the only skill sets you required going forward. I think that in our group at the time, we had the bulk of our people were chartered accountants, as was I. So when you talk about professionalizing, I don't think it was unprofessional. I think that it needed contemporization, more so because of this whole change happening in the outside world that coincided with my father's passing away. I thought that with the new world, you're required to have skills of how to manage people better, how to attract better talent, how to provide people with attractive career paths. So that was a big area of my focus. You also needed to know things in a more holistic perspective. It wasn't an era where you got a license and put up a plant. You needed to know where to play, how to play, who are you actually catering to, who's your customer. Do you want to be an all-India player only, or do you want to play also overseas? So there's a whole new set of strategic thinking capabilities that you're required to have. And all I was doing was importing some of the skill sets that we didn't have from the outside. From being a very homogeneous group, almost all Marwadi, and I'm a very proud Marwadi, to being a very heterogeneous group, we today 35 different nationalities. But the whole idea was to import talent that could bring in skill sets that we didn't have to succeed in the future at that point in time. That was my sort of philosophy at that point in time.
Well, I'll narrate to you what one of your, I won't call them contemporaries, one of your seniors said. And you apparently told them this. Now, I don't know whether I'm reporting the conversation very faithfully, but what one of your people said is that Mr. Birla told me that, you know, if in a family there were two sons and one of them was clever, the other was mediocre, the clever one was sent to a multinational or a foreign bank, and the not so clever one, Birla always takes care of the family, so bring him into the Birla group. This tendency was there, and you wanted that changed. Am I reporting it correctly?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that we had a womb-to-tomb policy, which was true for many businesses at that point in time. So if you were employed, then your son automatically almost got employed with the group. And I thought that was very unfair. I think people needed to come in. We needed people of a certain caliber and above. And so I brought in a policy to say that just because you're a son of an employee, you can't just come in. You need to be qualified. And I had this one conversation that stayed with me with someone who said that, you know, you've upset my future plan because my son, I had always thought would be part of the Birla organization. You've now come out with this so-called rule, and which means that his future is completely uncertain now. So what I was telling him is, which is what I think you're talking about, I was saying that, look, you've got two sons, you want to send the one from MIT into a, foreign bank, and someone who's just a graduate, you want to send him to work with me. Why should that be the case? I mean, you send me the son who's the MIT graduate and see what we can do with him in terms of the kind of opportunities we can give him and in the way that he can bloom and grow in a very sort of interesting career. So that was the whole conversation. We wanted people with qualifications, we wanted people with a certain background, with a certain track record, as opposed to people coming in and then just staying on pretty much till they passed away. Let me get back to your great-grandfather and grandfather, also icons as far as a business reporter is concerned. There is this legendary letter which Mr. G.D. Birla is believed to have written to Mr. B.K. Birla, Mr. Basant Kumar Birla, when he went abroad to study. Have you heard of that letter? The person who mailed it to me, it was in Hindi. It was an extremely beautiful letter. It has a very beautiful philosophy. One, it says, don't waste money on yourself. Aish nahi karna. Paisa hai, iska ye matlab nahi ki aish karo. And then he goes on to say that if you can't find good use, if you don't think your children will use your money well, then do charity before you give it over to them. This is extremely noble. Was there a letter like that? Yeah, I think that letter is something that a lot of family on the first row would know about very well. And I think that letter is some kind of a credo for the family. The fact that, wealth is to be used for society and for the good of society and for giving back. as opposed to, being, for the purpose of being lavish and spending mindlessly. And that wealth wouldn't stay very long with you if you were to do that. He also talked about, personal habits and how that lead to character formation and the kind of impact that has on you and your future generations. So that letter, I think, is very profound. My great-grandfather was clearly very influenced by Mahatma Gandhi. It also said that you shouldn't spend on yourself, and I feel a little guilty sometimes when I'm buying something, but I think that the ethos was that giving back to society and using wealth in a responsible way, in a way that you can empower people, is what the purpose of wealth is all about.
So you don't spend much on yourself? I mean, you don't want to buy the latest BlackBerry when it was famous,
the
latest iPhone, now that it is...
I think that, I spend on whatever I want to, but I think I'm a very reasonable spender. But I'll tell you the example of my grandfather. I've never seen him spend on himself. My aunt will tell you, when he was working, I think he had 4 or 5 suits at any point in time, 4 or 5 kurta dhotis. And to get him to buy more was a real project that, my aunt and grandmother had to embark on every time. So one has seen that simple, simple living and high thinking being actually lived.
But how are you with your children? I mean, as a father, one of them is a pop singer, the other is a cricketer.
For us, for Neerja and me, we believe that we wanted our children to start off their careers by doing things that they wanted to do, that would help them to bloom as individuals and pursue their passions. Our only condition was that you have to work very hard. So we don't want you to be playing cricket, but,
Excel in it.
So you've got to work really hard at what you do and try your very best to excel at it. And we're really happy because I think we see both of them do that. My daughter is not just a pop singer, she also runs her own microfinance startup. She's also gotten into affordable housing, and we keep a watch on, at a very broad level. They won't let you get closer than a point this generation, but we have a very good sense of what she's doing. Her music is fairly interesting, doing quite well. She's got a little fan following of her own. My son plays cricket. He plays first-class cricket. He's with Rajasthan Royals, but plays for Madhya Pradesh under 23. He's the captain. He's lived in Rewa, which is in Madhya Pradesh, for the last 3 or 4 years. And I went to Rewa for the first time last month. We've acquired a plant very close to that, and when I landed there in the first 10 minutes, I was just completely choked. I knew it's a small town, but I had no idea that it could be as small as it really is, with hardly anything there. I mean, that hotel was probably a 2-star hotel, and there was nothing there really. And I can't imagine, a Bombay boy staying there for 3 years, 4 years, just to, pursue his passion for a sport like that. I mean, it was just something that I was taken back about. It just choked me. So also my daughter, I mean, she does very long hours, spends time on her music, enjoys it, but works very hard on her microfinance. She's built up her own team. So the point being that, these kids are very bright. This generation is a completely different generation from ours. I think it's important that we give them leeway as long as they're reasonable, as long as they're very clear about family values and sticking to those, as long as they're associating with the right people. And in our case, we are fortunate that all of these with our kids has never been a problem. And I think it's very important that they have a good work ethic, something that our family has always stood for. And I can see that they're following that. I mean, they're making mistakes. They're also, making their own little and big victories. And I think that it's shaping them as individuals. It's important that each one of them be a strong individual with his or her own identity. I think that's very important for Neerja and me.
You stepped into the world of business when, as you said, Dr. Manmohan Singh almost changed the grammar of business. Competition, suddenly tariffs which were protecting Indian business were brought down from 200 to 20. So competition was suddenly there. If today you want some earth-shattering reforms in India, what would that be? Something that changes the grammar of business.
I think that there's lots more that can be done on the ease of doing business. The government has done a lot. I think the state governments have to now, follow suit and work in a collaborative way with the center. And now with the BJP having the kind of national mandate that it has, there can't be a better time than now to expect that to happen. That is one thing I think that can really move the needle and make a huge difference.
These last 5 years have been pretty difficult for Indian business. Since I speak more about corporate earnings, earnings growth for, say, Nifty companies has been in single digits for the last 5 years. How do you see the next 5 years? Do you think we are breaking out? Because we've had some big changes like GST and bankruptcy code. Is the next 5 years looking bright, or do you think the slowness will persist?
I think it has to be a sector by sector and company by company approach, Latha. So you can't generalize and say that we are breaking out or we're kind of stuck. It depends on which sector. Even within a sector, you have 2 or 3 stars that, all of us know about. So I think it has to be specific to a few companies as opposed to a broad sweep.
No, the economy ran, sprinted fairly hard from 2003 maybe to about 2010-11. But the slowness that came after the great financial crisis, it hit us a little later. That slowness has not gone away. So you see that
if you see the BJP manifesto, and I completely trust it, I'm sure you do too, they're talking about investing 100 trillion rupees in infrastructure in the next 5 years. So we're growing at about 6.5–7% today. I think what we need to do, and I'm sure, it's nothing that is sort of a unique perspective, but we need to build an economy that intrinsically can grow at 8 to 10%. And for that, you need to build infrastructure. So you've got roads, bridges, of course, physical infrastructure, also soft infrastructure like health, education, so on and so forth. So I think infrastructure, developing infrastructure is not just important to sustain growth, it's also important from the point of view of creating jobs, of creating employment, and the whole virtuous cycle that goes with that.
There is this huge NBFC issue and banks not willing to bankroll, maybe not NBFC, maybe more housing finance companies. Do you see this dragging on for a goodish bit?
Any regulation today is going to separate the men from the boys. And it actually depends on how fast the RBI wants to come in and either provide a bailout or they want that shakeout to happen. I think that there are 2 or 3 such names, quite unexpectedly. And I think that, whether it takes a month or 3 months, that process of separation will definitely happen.
But your sense is it's better that there is a shakeout before, general help is provided?
I think so. I think that whenever there is a situation like this, the faster it resolves, the better. And I think that the faster the weaker players or players who, I don't mean these in particular, but the ones that have governance issues, kind of are taken out of the system, it's healthier for the industry as a whole.
IBC, has that changed the way businessmen think and behave, the bankruptcy code?
I'm sure it will going forward. It's just in the process. It's a new thing introduced 2 years ago. But I think that the psychology of an entrepreneur in India has changed forever. No one really thought that their companies could be taken away from them 2 years ago. And whilst it was a harsh decision, I think that it does good for the fitness of Indian industry going forward.
It's also giving you a lot of opportunities to buy companies, bankruptcy. Are you busy buying more?
So we did. We bought into JP.
Yes.
There is nothing else that interests you. And we don't want to come to the NCLT because we bought so many companies from the NCLT. Latha.
Now for the Jaldi 5.
As if I wasn't scared of you already, Latha. You got Jaldi 5.
Okay, let's see how Jaldi this is. Well, who is your favorite business leader? And I've picked 5. Ratan Tata, N. Chandra, Mukesh Ambani, Gautam Adani, Sunil Mittal.
My favorite business leader by and far is Narayana Murthy. When he says that a clean conscience is the softest pillow you can sleep on. And I think he's practiced that through his career. So he head and shoulders comes, over anyone else.
Okay, then let me ask, who is your favorite, say, political administrative leader? I won't give you choices. Someone who has impressed you, either a civil servant or a politician or just a national leader.
So I've been very impressed by Nirmala Sitharaman. I'm not saying that because she's the new FM, but I think that she has, well, maybe because of that also. Don't take this out of your clip on CNBC.
Well, the next question will definitely be, what do you want from Nirmala Sitharaman's budget?
Well, lots. You want me to start?
Yes.
I could talk for the next half an hour on that.
I permit you,
but really,
five.
you know, I don't know if, I'm sure you've interacted with her as well. Extremely focused. She knows what she wants. She knows the subject well. It's so business-like and yet so, you know, I mean, she gets what she wants in such a sort of nice way. I was very happy to see her be the next FM. I think she's got great administrative skills, which is what you were asking. So yeah, I think woman power, obviously gaining steam.
Oh yes, but you can still tell me one big thing you want from the budget. That's part of the Jaldi 5.
So I think all of us in business would want to see more investment happening. Yes. So some subs or incentives for investment on the ground is something that I think anyone would ask for. It's a universal ask from this budget.
Okay. Well, actually, let me not get down that path. It's extremely tempting. What has been the most difficult deal for you? You've bought so many companies, L&T Cement, Binani, JP Cement, you've bought novelists, you may have bought companies abroad. Which has been the Vodafone? Which is the most difficult deal?
So I don't know if I should be talking about it. You think I should?
You should. Absolutely. You have disarming candor. You should.
I won't talk about it too much because I think it's not appropriate to. But one of these deals I actually struck in a parking lot in Bombay. Okay. There was a lot of cloak and dagger around it. I don't know for what reason, but I was just told that if you want the deal to happen, come to this parking lot. Oh. So I landed up thinking, you know, is this for real? But strange things happen, and I think it's all part of the growing up process and part of stories that you will remember at the end of your career.
I feel ashamed as a journalist. I didn't know about this, but this would have been the juiciest
this one you're
story.
Not getting to know for a long time.
Okay, I must try and eke out a little more about this cloak and dagger event. Okay, what is a company you feel you should have bought? You told me Hindustan Zinc. But is there something else or some sector you should have entered? Something you're dying to enter?
I think water is a very interesting segment. I don't know if India is ready for it. So water, both institutional and retail. Just given the fact that there's water shortage, all of us know that. Productivity of water, how well you use water is going to become more and more important. I think there's there's a big business model to be made there. You have US companies who've done extremely well in the water business. I don't think India's, you know, it's the right time for India. It's perhaps way before its time, but, you know, it doesn't have to be in India. It could be in the US for, you know, all you know. I think that's a great business to get into.
Okay, and now a business you should not have entered. I think I know the answer, but try.
Which is the answer? What do you think is that? Is the answer?
I'm asking the question. That's the only privilege a journalist has.
So, you know, there was a very small business called Seawater Magnesia, which we had invested in. And by the time the project came into being and started commissioning, the policy changed and it just became an unviable business. So for every ton that you produced, you lost money. So this was very early in the time again when I just come in. And so within 1 month of its commissioning, I just had it shut down. And everyone thought, my God, what is he doing? But, you know, I think that was a small investment, but taught us all a lot about being able to foresee change.
And I think that was a great way to evade a controversial question. Thank you very much.
Tell me the business you had in mind, Latha.
I think telecom, I don't think you wanted to enter it at all.
In perspective, if you were to ask me to enter it today, I obviously wouldn't want to. At the time that we did 25 years ago, it was a great business. We stayed with it for 25 years. We grew it from nothing to being today the largest player, not the most profitable, unfortunately not yet, but still the largest player. And I think at that time, if you were not to have invested, given the kind of businesses and the kind of mandate that we had, we would have lost an opportunity. We've been in businesses that have had their ups and downs, and one of the strengths that we've had is to stay with businesses over the long term. This is an extremely unusual case. I mean, I think this is straight out of Harvard Business Review. But yes, I don't regret getting into it when we did.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Birla. It was the most enjoyable one.
Pleasure and privilege to be here. Thank you for being such a wonderful audience. Thank you.